Lost generation. This generation lived between two world wars and experienced the shock of World War I, 1914 to 1918, which claimed over 16 million lives with many more wounded. The moral disillusionment following the war led to apathy and pessimism, reflected in both art and daily life. The post-war period was a time of experimentation and a break from traditional morals. The early 1920s are associated with the Jazz Age and a sexual revolution. Women began wearing short dresses, bright makeup, and experimenting with bob haircuts. Cigarettes and evening gowns became symbols of newfound female freedom. The appearance of automobiles, radio, and cinema changed people's lives. Henry Ford launched mass production of the automobile, Model T, making it accessible to the middle class. Telephone networks expanded rapidly, connecting people across continents. Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald were key cultural figures of this generation. One of the most devastating epidemics was the Spanish flu, which claimed around 50 million lives globally in 1918 to 1919. Greatest generation. This generation endured the Great Depression of the 1930s, massive unemployment, and World War II, 1939 to 1945. About 70 million people died worldwide during the war. People of this generation rebuilt the economies and infrastructures of war-torn nations, laying the foundations for post-war prosperity. The 1940s fashion was strict and functional due to material shortages. Women wore modest dresses, and men preferred simple yet tidy suits. The introduction of women's trousers marked a big step toward gender equality. The atomic bomb, airplanes, television, and the first computers changed the world. This generation built major corporations like General Motors, Ford. The first computer, ENIAC, was created in 1945 and weighed 30 tons. Silent generation. This generation grew up in the aftermath of World War II, during the Cold War and the Korean War. People were forced to remain silent amid political instability and the threat of nuclear war. Conservative clothing styles dominated, with classic coats and suits. Music saw the rise of rock and roll with Elvis Presley and the Beatles. The television era gained momentum, while the Cold War accelerated technological development. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first satellite, Sputnik 1, marking the start of the space race. During this period, the US developed the hydrogen bomb. This generation witnessed the start of the civil rights movement in the US. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953, claimed over 2.5 million lives. Baby boomers. After World War II, there was a demographic boom, a rise in birth rates. This period coincided with economic growth, allowing families to achieve financial stability. The 1950s and 1960s became the golden era for consumer society, advertising, and mass culture. The era of hippies, free love, and protests against the Vietnam War. Men wore long hair, and women donned loose dresses and bright clothing. Jeans became a symbol of the new generation. Electronics boomed with the advent of transistors, the first personal computer, Apple I in 1976, cassette tapes, and VCRs. This time also marked the 1969 moon landing, the pinnacle of the space race. This generation witnessed the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, which claimed around 3 million lives. Generation X. Generation X grew up during a time of global change, the end of the Cold War, economic recessions, and rapid technological development. This generation valued independence, influenced by the vibrant culture of MTV and the grunge movement. Fashion of the 1980s and 1990s was characterized by bright neon colors, broad shoulders, and bleached jeans. The 1990s saw the rise of grunge style, ripped jeans, and flannel shirts. The internet became a mass phenomenon in the late 1990s, opening a new era of communication. The emergence of mobile phones and email made communication faster and simpler. Companies like Microsoft and Apple began dominating the technology market. This generation witnessed the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Chechen War, 1994 to 1996, claimed about 100,000 lives. Millennials. Millennials were the first to grow up with digital technology, the internet, and mobile phones. They witnessed the 2008 economic crisis and active changes in the labor market. This generation became more focused on freelance work and remote jobs. Millennials favor casual and comfortable clothing. Athleisure has become part of everyday style, especially sneakers. In fashion, technology gadgets, fast-paced life, and healthy lifestyles. This time marked the rise of social networks. Facebook, 2004, Twitter, 2006, Instagram, 2010. Smartphones replaced personal computers, changing the way people work and communicate. This generation lived through the September 11, 2001 attacks and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Generation Z, Zoomers. Generation Z grew up in the age of social networks, video content, and global uncertainty. This generation is more environmentally conscious and politically active. They face climate change, economic instability, and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020, which claimed millions of lives. Advances in artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, technology has become the foundation of life for Zoomers, many of whom are growing up in fully digitalized environments. Active users of TikTok and other platforms, they've transformed the way content is consumed. Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha is growing up in a world of total digitalization, automation, and artificial intelligence. This is the first generation to be entirely raised in an era of mobile devices and smart technologies. In the coming years, they will face global challenges, climate change, political instability, and new technological revolutions. Quantum technologies, fully autonomous vehicles, and breakthroughs in medicine such as nanorobots for disease treatment, Generation Alpha is expected to be the most educated and technologically adept in human history. Most children in this generation will grow up with access to personalized educational programs powered by artificial intelligence. Summary: Lost Generation, formed during World War I. They experienced deep disillusionment and cynicism due to the devastating effects of the war. This generation is often associated with a cultural crisis and the search for meaning in life. Greatest Generation grew up during the Great Depression and participated in World War II. They are considered people who overcame significant challenges and built a post-war world with a strong economy and stability. Silent Generation grew up during economic hardships, wars, and political instability, known for their caution, hard work, and conformity. This generation laid the foundation for post-war growth, but often remained culturally in the background. Baby Boomers, born after World War II during the baby boom. They grew up in a time of economic prosperity and witnessed significant cultural and social changes, such as the Civil Rights Movement and the Sexual Revolution. Generation X grew up in an era of economic uncertainty and the rise of the digital age, known for their independence, pragmatism, and skepticism. This generation experienced the shift from traditional to digital technologies and changing family structures. Millennials, the first generation to witness globalization and the rise of the internet. Millennials adapted to the rapid development of digital technologies and faced economic challenges such as recessions and rising living costs. Zoomers grew up in a fully digital environment, accustomed to instant access to information. They are activists focused on social justice and are concerned with global issues like climate change and inequality. Generation Alpha, the youngest generation, children of millennials. They are growing up in a world where digital technology is present from birth. This generation is expected to have an even closer integration with technology, and its influence is just beginning to take shape.